Due to explicit content and language, listeners' discretion is advised. Black in Thought.
All right, let's get started. You may learn something.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to Black in Thought, where we take a look at current and cultural issues, applying that Afrocentric drip to them. Your hosts tonight are... We got the Professor, Dale, JBD, and of course me, Ill Will. So, tonight's topic is touched the nerves to a lot of people. When I've listened to it before, when I've heard it, you see the opinions of Candace Owens, people like the Hodge Twins, putting out rhetoric and, putting their opinion on, the social issues that's going on in the world. The bad part about it is that I see with that, I'm not going to say they don't have some valid points in some of the things they say. They do have some valid points, but there's also some ignorant points that they put across as well. Because the first thing, and I'm going to just put it out there, the first time a social situation happens and the opposite side, and we'll just say something happens with something within the black community or to the black community, and then you have the white community, the first thing they want to throw up there, well, did you hear what Candace Owens said? Did you hear what the Hodge Twins said? Their opinion sounds like this, and this is, I think that's more aligned. And so we're going to kind of talk about the effect that has socially on the black community and, how dangerous, those opinions and those thoughts can be since they have the platform and the stage for it. Recently, on the last Candace Owens show, she had a guy by the name of Kingface. Now, he was supposedly a well-known gangbanger in New York that's reformed. The part that gets me is this dude said he's never really experienced racism. He's never really experienced police brutality from the police and things like that. I don't know if this dude was just on there for a show and he was getting paid to say these things. Or, there is a world that that might have happened, but I just don't know. So we're going to kind of listen to a little bit of
I will be honest, and
show.
I will say, for the first time in my political career, I have been feeling pessimistic about the black community. I jumped into this space feeling optimistic, feeling like there was change that could be implemented if we were willing to have the tough conversations. When I look up at the world today and I see these protests and I see these riots and I see who and what is at the center of these riots, when I see black businesses being burned down, when I see black criminals being martyred, and when I see black athletes and black celebrities and black community leaders sanctioning this violence in our community and remaining mum on the larger instances of violence in our community, I wonder if Black America will ever get ahead. When I sit down and I think by myself about why we ended up in this predicament, I always come up with the answer of culture. What is Black culture? How is it impacting Black America? Is it for the better or is it for the worse? Here to discuss all of those things with me is first and foremost, a personality. If you are not following online, he goes by the moniker Kingface. Welcome to the Candace Owens Show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Kingface is also, for those of you that are listening, he is one of my Black City ambassadors. He speaks to the Black community, and by himself, he is the founder of something called the DAD Project, which stands for Developing American Dreams. There's so much that we need to get into, and I could go off on a tangent here. Just give us your take on what's happening right now with Black Lives Matter and all of these protests and riots.
I just think it's in a sense, a test to see who they can control and who they can't. Black Lives Matter, they've always used the emotions of Black people in order to get their agendas to be pushed. And I've noticed that it's like everything is emotional. It's like everything, you got cops shooting somebody and they put this certain narrative. And what that does in our community, it builds fear. And once you're afraid of something, especially with officers who you're supposed to feel safe around, and they keep pushing that narrative, people are going to now be put in more positions to have those things happen because that's how they make their money. That's how they get their exposure, is through the death of black men. They don't get it from actually, protecting black lives at all. Nothing is about Black Lives Matter that has to do with any black lives. If somebody could show me when they've been around to actually prevent these George Floyd incidents, as you would say, from happening, then I could look at Black Lives like it's a positive thing. But they're not doing that. They only come around election time. They only come around when a black dead man gets killed by a cop that's white or perceived to be white. And they use that to actually use that to destroy our strength within ourselves. It's like wearing a mask. It's killing the immune system. It's weakening us more and more and more and more and more and more. So then you look at it like, now I could get them because they're already broken down. Even with this George Floyd situation, there's people that usually don't care about that stuff that I noticed was like, yo, that's messed up. But to the point where they're praising him. That's why when people say, oh, you agree with Candace? I'm like, yes, we have to stop praising these type of people. And Black Lives Matter, that's all they ever push. I've never seen in my life, if this exists, then I want to see it. A kid going to school, minding his business, getting good grades, no record, getting shot by a cop. Is it a coincidence that everybody that's shot by a cop has a bad record? So even when people like George Floyd, I'm like, and you said it so perfect, I'm like, wow, it makes so much sense. What about that woman that he put the gun to her stomach? What do you think she's going through right now? It's like, you guys are making him like the greatest guy on earth.
And see, that's kind of where I have to stop it. Because this is what I don't understand. People aren't praising George Floyd. They're not, people are getting that confused. It's the situation that happened that, was brought to light that they're praising as far as for change, reform, and things like that. Yes, I mean, we get it. That's one of the first things they say. He has a record. He has this. He has that. But it was the actions of the officers that were there that brought on whatever else that came after that. Because I'm sorry, a supposed counterfeit $20 bill is not worth a man's life.
Agree. And I'm with you on that. And I think that's where Candace Owens and Kingface.
Yeah.
I think that's where they're I'll take that back. I have personally seen myself on online or wherever the case may be, people have been raising George Floyd up to be like a hero or whatever you want to call it. But that is a very small percentage of people. Most people are not raising him up to be a hero or be some type of stand-up citizen or just being the model of what we all should strive for. No, I don't think no one's holding him up to that. But I think every black person is saying his name as far as George Floyd because, like you just said, is the situation that happened.
And you can be mad about someone paying for his funeral. You can be mad about someone donating to his family and things like that. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand, these are individuals who are doing what the hell they want to do with their own money.
Right.
It's not like the government pitched in and did this. It's not like, they're using your tax dollars to do this or whatever. These were like Mayweather. He paid for the whole funeral. If that's what he wanted to do, that's what that man can do. There's no stopping anybody who wants to do that. I mean, if that's how he wanted to show his concern for the cause and everything like that, that's what he wanted to do. That doesn't make him paying for the funeral. He's praising George Floyd as George Floyd was just, he's some, as an angel and, he didn't do anything wrong and things like that as the media and everybody wants to try to sway things. We all know, there was, things in his past. We get that. But that's also the first thing that, when someone dies, the media wants to throw out there. Mm-hmm. the $20 bill was not, the cause and the effect does not equate to each other when you think about that.
You know, I'm gonna call him Kungun. You know, he doesn't deserve the respect of calling by his name. In essence, all he has done is put a target on essentially every black man's back. It's not about his prior record. That's not what we're protesting. We're protesting the break in protocol, right? So what he's saying is what Kungun has said is
Boy, you surprise me every day, man. Kungun, man. That's a new. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Professor. My fault. Go ahead. You was on to something. My bad.
But he said, isn't it ironic that every black man that has been shot has had a record? As if that's the criteria to lose your life as it pertains to law enforcement, rather than looking at the protocol involved, even if they were, if there was some suspicion there, there's still protocol you have to follow, right? So that right there concerns me for this man to be African American and have that thought process. So again, he's put a target on our back, and I think he has a very acute understanding as to what type of society he's living in. So,
and I think I kind of understood what he was saying when he said that. Like, for example, the George Floyd situation. All the videos that we seen, we seen him come out the store, we seen him get out the car, we seen him stand up against the wall, and then it cuts, and then the next part of the video we see is him face down with the guy's knee in his neck. We don't see what happened to get between the wall and the ground. We don't see what happened, and what the cops and everybody else is saying is that he resisted. So on one hand, I kind of understood what he was saying, and you can go back and look at a number of different cases where a black man was killed by the cops, and there was some type of resistance. Now, I'm not saying that is the reason to kill somebody because the man snatched his arm away from the cop. No, but that's how these cops are getting off, is because the men that they're arresting are doing stuff like that, like trying to run, or like say you try to put him in handcuffs and he snatching his arm away or fighting back or whatever the case may be, and that's kind of giving these cops the green light to say, I'm gonna take you out, and now and they always get off in court because
I hope it's not the green light to take out. For me, it's the green light to try to take the person in custody. But I mean, in looking at it, because they've put out several videos, and then like I've actually seen the video where they tried to put him in the cruiser, but he resisted. I mean, to tell you the truth, as a law enforcement officer, I've been in the same situation where, it's time to, put somebody in the back of the cruiser and they don't want to hop in. So, at that point, one of my partners, they're going to the other side, while I'm trying to get him in this way, they're trying to pull him in that way. And it's usually successful in putting somebody in the cruiser and closing the door. And then, it is what it is from there. There's no, dragging somebody back out of the car and then, putting my knee across nobody's neck. So there are better ways there's completely better ways that could have been handled. But to go back, he said that there's nobody that's been killed by the police that that didn't have anything. Well,
that's just ridiculous.
He's wrong because Elijah McClain, that kid was just autistic. He didn't have a record. He didn't have nothing like that. But he died.
Well, he's talking present tense, right?
Elijah McClain he's present.
Right. Now, if you look at any historical data, there's bunches and dozens and hundreds of black men who were lynched and murdered in America. So it startles me to think that he believes that the only way you will get murdered by the cops is if you have a record. Mm-hmm. So my question is, then what is the scenario 50 years ago? Does that philosophy still pertain to what happened 50, 60 years ago?
Right.
Where a man couldn't even walk his daughter to and from school without getting lynched, or better yet, her getting lynched? So at what point did Kungun realize that you had to have a record? That you had to have a record to be murdered? Coming out of the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. Like what part of history did he miss?
Oh, he missed all the history because I mean he didn't even reflect on any of that and say anything about that.
Right, because historically, our fear of the police stems from the brutality that was inflicted upon us when we were when we didn't have any issues and we were trying to get our piece of the American pie, when we were fighting for our human rights, right? So I'm just conflicted about Candace's viewpoint on America, and it's almost like she's omitted the greater detail, the root cause, and the historical value of all this stuff that we're seeing today. I'm dumbfounded.
Go ahead, JB.
Oh, yeah, it's, I think, yeah, you need to have some critical thought and you need to think things through and not just, go with what the conventional wisdom is about things. However, I mean, some stuff is self-evident, man. I mean, I think even on the rest of the podcast, he mentioned something about in the interaction with police, him putting his keys on the dashboard, cutting the car off, turning all the lights on in the car, putting the windows down. I mean,
you shouldn't have to.
That's what
exactly.
But I mean,
that's my point.
It is something to help out, but you shouldn't have to.
But that's my point. Yeah, okay. Based on what he was saying, that's a sign of respect. To me, that's going over the top, and you shouldn't have to.
And what I didn't understand about that is, he said that if he get pulled over on the cop, he said he run all his windows down, cut his music off, turn the lights on, put his keys on the roof. I was like, but if a white man get pulled over, do he do that?
That's my point.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like
exactly. So why do you have to do it?
Tell us to do that.
It feels like you
because he's black.
are,
I think he is.
Perpetuating, just that whole thought process that if I do all these 75 things, I'm not gonna get killed.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, come on, man.
I mean,
it shouldn't be that way.
Right. So
that's the argument is that
right.
You shouldn't have to do those types of things just to stay alive on the interaction with law enforcement.
Right.
It shouldn't take all of that by you,
right,
the citizen who pays this law enforcement officer's salary, that you should have to go through that.
Right.
So,
But you know what's even worse than that? And I'm going to go a little retroactive. Remember we were talking about rioting and looting and tearing up buildings and all that type of stuff? And my stance was the buildings don't matter. It's the cause in which that they're rioting for, right? But Candace had made mention, like, they're tearing up buildings, they're doing this and they're doing that, and the buildings don't have anything to do with it. This is where society has all of us brainwashed, right? So we looted, we tore up buildings that had nothing to do with it, black businesses, white businesses, whatever, just to get our point across. Now, I'm going to go back in history, because if tearing up buildings are that important to American society, which is local, I'm about to give you something on an international scale that nobody mentioned or nobody pushed the envelope. Back in Pearl Harbor, we were attacked by the Japanese. The Japanese strictly attacked the base. 20 American ships, 300 airplanes, anything attached to the military base, right? Now,
you and these bombs.
Do you know? Hold on.
Are you
so you ready for this?
Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor.
Hold on. I'm making a point. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't miss it.
Go ahead, Professor.
Because
It Will's being silly.
Again, I have to educate you on this, and the root cause of our thinking and the things that we've adopted from the American way. So America's response was this. You guys have heard of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
Correct.
So again, it was minor damage compared to what we inflicted. So in return, America sent 15,000 tons of TNT. They obliterated 70% of all buildings. Remember, the buildings had got nothing to do with it, right? Because the people who died, it's eye for eye, right? So buildings have nothing to do when people die. Remember, that was everybody's argument. Well, why are they tearing up the buildings? Why are they tearing up the businesses instead of just rioting peacefully? But America caused 140,000 deaths compared to 2,400 deaths. Fucked up 70% of their infrastructure. So if we're going to talk about fucking up buildings on a local level, why didn't we talk about it on an international level? Because we got the shit from America. So again, we are enslaved mentally, and we're fucked up mentally because we look at things in such a narrow fashion, we forget about the big fucking picture. That's why I kept saying, guys, the buildings don't matter. Fuck the buildings, burn them all down. Because we only learned it from America. That's my point.
Good point.
Valid. I mean, because you're right. I mean, it tore up shit on a major level going over there.
Still don't agree with your point.
10 times. 10 times as much. Right?
I was thinking you was gonna do a correlation with another protest, like maybe the Boston Tea Party or something like that. But
I see what he's saying because, like he said, with the buildings over there.
She was talking about why are we destroying buildings?
I mean, that's what you're doing. War.
Every black man is at war.
We at war.
Every black man is at war.
We at war.
Right. Every black man is
I
at
knew
war.
that was coming. I knew that was
every
coming.
day.
Yeah.
You,
I just like I said, I see how you correlate it.
I mean, yeah, I do
still
see because
agree,
I mean,
but
with the war against police
Instead
brutality,
of attacking the base, the military base in Japan, and being surgical with the discharge of weapons, they said, "Fuck it, we're going to destroy 70% of the country."
Yeah, but on a war analogy, you're not.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, you ain't.
I see what he's saying.
No, but you ain't taking down your own bunkers and your own battleships.
Yeah, but we still provided aid. Japanese.
No, what I'm saying is, if you tearing out your own businesses and that kind of thing, that's tearing down your own bunkers and your own battleships.
But we still provided aid. So if we tore something down, and we provided aid to yeah. So we tore it down just to build it. Doesn't matter. It makes sense. The concept is no different than what we've been doing during the protests. It's no different. And if we got it from anyone, we got it from them. We learned it from them. Why didn't Candace talk about that? Why didn't she talk about that?
Well, I mean, because she couldn't talk about anything else. I mean, I don't know if she was just stuck up Coon Goon's ass or whatever in that moment. But, I mean, she just her view was just so slanted. I mean, yes. I mean, I think she has to appease her audience by talking about these things and things like that. And, of course, there's a monetary gain in that fact as well, of course, because she wouldn't be doing it. But, you know, that's her whole show. I mean, it's just to be on the opposite time. I didn't want to sound cliche, but
it's your stick.
It's her whole. That's what she's made of. I mean, it's always been that way. Because I mean, you'll see the pictures of the past when it was like. I don't know if y'all seen the picture, but it was like a bunch of black men who came to her aid when she was younger, you know, as a child, and you know, supposedly the hood, and you know, helped her to get out and get educated and things like that. But then, you know, you kind of turn around and turn your back on those same people, you know, on the same hood that helped you get where you got.
And she said at the beginning of the podcast how she was pessimistic about the black culture. She kept saying black culture and
as if she wasn't a part of it.
But I don't think but she's not though. But she's not though. I don't think.
Because it's only a select few who correlate with her.
And it's one of them things too. Like I kind of agree. Well, I say agree. My question is, what is black culture?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like I mean, there's no way for you to define that because I grew up in. If you grow up on the inner city versus you growing up in the suburb, you're still black. Either where you go, you're just gonna grow up a little different. So there's no black culture.
Different levels of black.
There's no different.
No, she's talking about team dark skin, team light skin.
See,
now I know where you're going at. So Dale. I mean, that's what I get annoyed about is that people can have different thoughts, man.
Yeah,
they don't
have different opinions.
It can't be groupthink and everybody thinks the same. You should challenge things. You should take what is forced to you.
The only problem with that is that people come in and. The only problem with that is, when the outside world tries to make whatever single opinion of the mass instead of just that person's
everybody
single
does
opinion.
that, though.
I know, but see, in situations like that,
in
situations like this is more critical because, I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, there's a war on several issues going on right now. And so it is very critical that you don't put these things, you don't pigeonhole these things and put them in one single thing and, to try to put it down or put it in a different place to where you don't have to deal with it or don't want to face it.
I'll say this. Here's what I'd rather have. I'd rather there be more energy put in to white people becoming more educated about their involvement with different things in some of these racial issues and and the part that they play in it, than trying to eliminate somebody like Candace. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I get that,
that to me is like
the problem with that is, the same people that you talk about, they believe that Candace is right and think that I don't need to be educated because I feel Candace is right in talking about black people. That's why it's dangerous.
You don't shut her up. You speak louder and speak truth into everybody. I mean,
you can try.
But I think too, also you can, if the white person say, "Hey, listen to what Candace Owens is saying," that can persuade black people who's not in tune with really what's going on or what she's saying.
The suburb, the ones that live, like we was talking about, for example,
the different level of blacks.
It could
not a different level.
It could persuade them.
Because basically, Candace is giving them a false blueprint on how to deal with the African American community.
Because the way she talks,
right, it's very dangerous.
It sounds good.
She's giving them a narrative.
Don't let
that's
your
not
president
true.
get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that mentality.
Essentially,
man.
Yeah. And the thing, and Dale brought up a good point. When I was listening to her talk, she talking about the African American community. It was almost as if she was speaking from it in a detached way, right?
She was.
She did.
Right? Did you get that feeling?
She was straddling the fence on a couple times. She would say our community,
right?
My community, and then she would say
picking and choosing
the
what
black
parts she was
community,
right?
And them, and so it was like
she was selective about what parts of it pertain to her,
right? So, yeah, man,
And see, that's the part that's dangerous with all that. I mean, because you see people who need to be educated or want to be educated, and then they see that, and they're like, well, this person is straddling the fence, or this person can't decide, or this person talks down about the black community. So what am I supposed to do?
Well, I'll say this. In this sense, it depends on the shine or what's being glorified or what's being presented in masses. So we all know how it is when something screwed up happens. The news station gets down there. They find a report. They find the most ignorant person to go interview. Mm-hmm. It's like, now why they picked that person to be to tell what's going on. It's like they seek that person out because they want that to be the representation of this, the area in this situation. I understand what you're saying. So they want to showcase this opinion, this how this person feels, whereas other opinions are not being showcased on the same level.
JB's right, but I also want to bring up something to your attention when Candace was talking about culture, and when she was referencing culture, she would always go back to like the 90s or the mid 80s, right? That's where she was stuck at, and in essence, our culture started back in the biblical years, especially in Genesis, when God was laying out the blueprint again as to how we operate. The African American culture was simply about educating, learning, and cultivating, right? Remember we had the conversation about cultivation, and then when the other persuasion gets it, their goal is to conquer it. Everything, if you notice, when it comes to Caucasians, they simply want to conquer it. If they see the wind blow, we got to conquer it. Oh, it's raining, we got to conquer it. Oh, there's clouds in the sky, we have to conquer it. Rather than our community was like, okay, let us understand it so we know how to be a part of it and keep it going, right? Let us understand how to plant crops so that we can have a continuous source of food, right? Let us learn one another so that we can interact in a peaceful way so that we can trade and that we can barter. That was our culture, right? We were very community oriented and we believed in diplomacy because we liked peace, right? So that's our culture. But what Candace didn't do was she didn't reference that. She referenced things from like the 90s and the 80s. And that's as far as she could go back.
Well, I think that's probably based on her age too, man. So she's basing it off of something that
I think she's like 30-something.
I mean, I get that, but still do your research.
You do your research, but and that's her mind. I mean, you know how people are. People that's 60-something years old. The 70s was the best. 60s and 70s was the best time. So you know, you talk to your grandparents, they talked about the 50s and the 40s, like, man, the music and I mean, but it's just it's a familiar time, and I guess for her, she felt like the 80s and the 90s were a great time for black people, I guess.
I think what you were saying earlier, Ill Will, as far as she's dangerous. She's dangerous not because of who she is. It's because of the people who's listening. Or what she say? She's dangerous because of the people who's listening to her. Because like you just saying, when you have a conservative white person, right, that don't have many black friends, if you really want to,
never had an interaction with a black person,
or nothing like up close.
any meaningful interaction,
right? But then they hear her talk. They hear her talk. They hear her go off on her tangents, and she speaks very well.
She's the one who showcased on conservative media. And
then what they do is they say, "Oh, this is a black woman." Then you bring in what's his name? Goon. Like, you know what I'm saying? Then he brings in a different perspective of, I used to be a thug, I used to be in the streets, I used to do all the stuff, and now I'm you know blah blah blah.
I'm reformed. I'm doing programs.
Exactly. So like said, so the white people, the conservative white people that really need to be educated, like you were saying earlier, JB, really need to be educated about what's going on. They're getting their education from these people with these very small-minded ideas. They fixed their mind on something. Like, they kept in that interview, they kept talking about George Floyd not being a hero. Okay, we got that, but they went on for like 10-15 minutes about him not being a hero, but they did not talk about one time he got killed in handcuffs. They didn't bring that up, and that was the whole point.
They addressed it, but it wasn't.
There was no emphasis. It was
the more emphasis was, like you said, saying, Dale, it was an emphasis on the glorification of this individual as if he was a civil rights leader and a social justice warrior.
I'm gonna take this a step further. I seen this. I mean, this is just how divisive stuff like this can make us. I'm perusing through my Facebook, and then I see someone talk about,
that's a nice word,
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Perusing.
I'm gonna use that.
And so, it starts off with her. Then under his comment, now he's a black person, and under his comment, it goes talking about I think it said someone brought up race. She's not black, and so. And then it kept going down from there. Well, technically, yeah, you're right. She's not black. She's Jamaican and Indian.
That's so silly.
And then it just kept going like that, just being divisive. And these were black people going against each other, talking about, oh, well,
That's why it just drives me crazy with that stupid.
Hey,
I mean,
people
talk about, people talk
to do that, though.
But hear me out. Even on this sense, even on this sense, people say there ain't no black players in baseball. They just speak Spanish, bruh. That's all it is. They just speak Spanish, man.
Afro-Latina.
That's right. They from the Dominican. They from Cuba. They from, those the Caribbean areas. Mm-hmm. They still came from Africa, man.
They still brown.
They black, man. They just speak Spanish.
That's it.
Yeah. So
they like flour tortillas instead of hog maws.
So that's what I'm saying. So. You gotta know your history and don't they came on the same ships that our ancestors came from.
They took a different route.
They just landed on different islands, man, and landed on different places. So, come on now,
And I like I said, especially going back to what you were saying, Will, about the comments and stuff like that. I think people are, and this is why social media and going back to Candace and Kungung, this is why they're so big, because the social media, you can get on there and say the most craziest outlandish things without, like you were saying, without research, and there's going to be somebody out there that doesn't think for themselves,
take it as gospel.
Take it as gospel, and then they going to comment, they're gonna agree, they're gonna retweet,
they're gonna tell somebody else and tell somebody else and listen,
and then next you know
they change minds.
Exactly.
This is one of the worst things that I had ever seen. I got into an argument with this person, and this is why I can't stand politics, and I try not to talk politics with too many people. But this person was so much of a diehard Republican that, his way of thinking is so just nowhere to put it but fucking flawed. So I was talking to this person, and they were, why are the flags at half staff? I said, because there was someone in the Congress who passed away. And then he was like, oh, who was it? Was it a Democrat or a Republican? I said, does it matter? It was a man. And then he was like, oh, well, it does matter whether they're Democratic or Republican. I said, well, first off, his name's John Lewis, and he passed away, and that's why the flags are half staff. So I still need to know, is this a Democrat or a Republican? So somebody else that was close by looked it up while we were all in the same room and said, well, he was a Democrat. Good, I'm glad he's dead. All the Democrats need to die. I said, first off, this is a human being, and this is how you fucking feel about a human being just because he has affiliated with a certain party. And this was a white person.
You talking about anti-American?
That's the
that's
problem.
a fraction of your fucking military.
Yeah, right. See, the problem is that people, when it comes to politics, it runs so deep in their bones, man. It's just like, that's what drives me crazy about it.
It's the same as a sports fan. Sometimes, like Browns fans or any fan, people take it so personal. Like, that's not your team.
No.
You are not the Brown or the Buckeye. You are you. Same with Democrat, Republican.
Just so
they feel
die
the same
hard
way.
Republican that
come on,
just so,
man.
I got
terrible.
to the point where before saying anything else blown up, I just had to walk away because that's all he kept saying.
It's terrible,
He's
man.
a Democrat. He needed to die. And I was just like, damn, are you really that? I said, are you really that inhumane?
It's a human being, like you said.
You can't see that. And he said, we ain't never done anything anyway. I said, you have no recollection of the history of this man. You don't know all the powerful things that this dude has done.
But
I
it
just had
will.
to get up and walk away.
Are you surprised of his nature?
Not surprised, but just wanted to say so much more.
Okay.
You was ready to fight.
Oh, punch him in his shit.
Don't worry about what you can work for me. Yeah, Will, you can work for me.
I'm mad right now.
You be the first one. You can work for me.
You can't take it that deep.
That's why I had to walk away.
That's what I'm saying, man. It can't.
You should have called your coon goon.
Speaking of the coon goon, and yeah, I'm talking about you, King Fakes, and I hope you hear this podcast because you know what? After I think about all this, you were a gangbanger. You had been in trouble. Your ass was a co-defendant. You was a fucking snitch.
You a snitch. I'm about to say
you
the
ain't
same
shit,
thing,
Coon
man.
Goon. You ain't shit, King
He was a
Face.
snitch.
You a snitch. You know
He was
why?
talking like a
In your
snitch.
contract, they must have told you to do this shit and say this shit because there's no way in the world you could be in that line of business and not experience any kind of harassment from law enforcement. So you're a fucking snitch.
But
so I hope you hear this.
he talked about when going back to the being arrested in the car or getting pulled over in the car, why he had to do all that. So all that stuff talking about he's never experienced racism or harassment.
I don't buy that. I just
find it hard to believe that. He's never had a situation.
I wouldn't necessarily say that he would be.
He's a blood too.
There's been situations on that I've seen just recently posted from like other black officers to where they were pulled over while in uniform, and this has been mainly in the South. Alabama, your Mississippi areas like that, but they were pulled over by a white officer and still treated less than humanly while in uniform driving home in their in their personal car. I saw this one lady, she worked for this one agency. She was literally in tears the way that she was treated by this officer. Recorded the whole traffic stop and everything. So to be like for that dude to be like I've never experienced anything like that.
That's a lie.
Get the fuck out.
Well, you know what? It may not be a lie. He may just
his reality is altered.
His reality is, not.
There's nothing wrong with his reality. You guys keep forgetting that's his nature. So that is his reality. It's just like the lion. His nature is to be aggressive. To us, it may seem out of reality, but that's his fucking nature. You got to know how to deal with a snake and a lion. These motherfuckers are evil.
And this dude, King Face said that Trump came from the same surroundings as he did.
See on that note, this motherfucker out here, man.
Listen, man.
JB, he's smoking PCP.
Come on.
That motherfucker smoking PCP.
I am reading it right now, man. He said, he comes from the same surroundings as me.
Just because they came from New York don't mean they came from the same surroundings.
Yeah, exactly.
We done talking about this.
Yeah, let's move on.
This
This
ain't West
dude trying to get his bread. That's all.
And you know what?
And we talking about it, and we just
we're done. We're done.
Yeah.
Give us a call. Give us a call, Goon Face, or Goon Face, whatever you are. Give us a call.
He comes to
We'll
same
have a conversation with you. I got some questions.
I
I got some questions to ask you because you was talking to that dumb, not bright chick.
So all right.
I'm
So
sorry.
let's. I got a question.
Pause.
We got time.
Yeah, we got time.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
So let me ask you a question, guys. How do we, as a community, right? How do we handle the Candace Owens and Kungun?
What do you mean handle?
We made more noise.
Like when we you started to touch on it earlier.
Yeah, I think
like how do we handle that when we're faced with that type of person, like that type of reality?
I think that as you know, and they, I don't know if they said it, but he did bring up a good point. The King Face guy, he did say one thing, which I do believe. When we were enslaved, we had no power other than a riot, take over the plantation, which that did happen, the rebellions. But it took abolitionists, white abolitionists, to say this is wrong, this is messed up. So there are white people out there that do see that there are injustices, do see that the things need to be changed. We need to invest time in trying to unify with those folks to make change. I mean, they make up the majority of the country. I mean, you can't unless you want to, and I don't know. I mean, some people think this. I mean, just forget it. Screw it. It is what it is. We'll just do our thing. They do their thing, and boom. But if you really want to make some change, they're gonna have to be involved to really make structural changes in the country, and that's gonna happen through having a relationship, education, understanding, have a conversation. So, yes, the more you can pollinate and educate and teach and let people understand you and who you are, those voices are not going to carry the weight and not be as influential. So it's got to come through relationships and having some meaningful relationships with some dialogue with people who are looking for change as well.
So do you even give the Candace Owens people of the world any energy? Like, do you?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you
even
give.
Respond to.
No, I don't think you do. I think that you just keep your eye on the prize and keep it moving and do what you need to do, and influence the people that are around you. I mean, nobody here is going to sit there. Nobody here right now is going to influence what Candace Owens is going to say or not going to say.
All right, I got something to play for you guys. So you may recognize it, but hear it out. So check this out.
And I'm Siobhan Bryan. Two different groups facing off today in Marshall County, one demanding the removal of Confederate symbols that stand outside the Marshall County Courthouse, the other side demanding they stay put.
The assembly over now, but WHNT News 19's Tiffany Lester joins us live to tell us what each side had to say. Tiffany.
The Confederate flag is still waving, and this statue honoring Confederate soldier Captain John Rayburn is still standing outside the courthouse in Albertville. It's something many Marshall County residents are happy about, but others, including these demonstrators who have been out here since noon and are actually still going strong, not so much. Representatives from Say Their Names Alabama say that they want the flag and the statue removed, stating that they represent hate and white supremacy. Say Their Names Alabama members demonstrating in Albertville, fighting for the removal and relocation of the Confederate flag and monument at Marshall County courthouses.
The rebel flag does not represent all Americans, so it should not be at a place where all Americans in the county come, which is the courthouse. So it is out of place, and it has been out of place since they placed it here in 2005.
Unique Dunstan's organization wants the statues to be relocated to either the Albertville Museum or a nearby nearby cemetery where other Confederate veterans have been laid to rest.
As ugly and hateful the Confederacy was, it is our history. So I think it is a compromise that we're willing to make to relocate it to somewhere that doesn't stand for justice as our courthouses do.
But Say Their Names Alabama has some opposition from about 24 members and supporters of the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Regardless how the next person feels, I'm not going to take my flag down. If I got anything to do with it, ain't no monument going to come down.
Daniel Sims says he was adopted as a child.
My whole family's white. Went to all white school, grew up in an all white neighborhood. My grandfather was white, and he was the main one that fought in this war here. And he's taught me everything I know.
He explains how he'd feel if the statues and flag were relocated.
It may make my blood boil if they just come up here and feel like they can just tear it down. I don't see me still living if they do that right there. That monument ain't hurting nobody. That monument ain't killing a soul. It ain't talking bad to nobody. It ain't even racist.
But Dunstan says she's confident her group will be successful in getting the flag and monuments removed.
So let's play a famous game that Charlemagne the God plays. Guess what race he is? The guy saying that flag has done nothing
He's
to that
Asian.
young man.
Oh, he's black.
Yeah, he's black.
Yeah.
So listen, man. I mean,
That's why Candace Owens and them are dangerous in effect, because you get somebody like that. Now, I'm not saying he's directly
well, I'm
correlated
sure
to Candace
everybody's seen
Owens,
this, that Dave Chappelle episode with Clayton Dixon.
hell yes. Yes, but I mean, it's just, I mean, I have no words for that. I saw that and I heard that and I was like, wow.
I, like knowing people from the South though, that Confederate flag is, we know it represented, what side, in the Confederate War, but at the same time, that's their history. You know what I mean? Like kind of what he was saying. Like when he was saying it didn't represent racism, all that stuff, that's a lie. But that's a part of history. So they're just not gonna roll over and let that go.
But I get like what she said. She said, "How about it goes to the museum,
right,
or where the other Confederate monuments and stuff are in the cemetery where the others are buried."
So you got, I mean, to really understand it, you got to look at when those Confederate flags in those Confederate monuments started popping up. It always coincided with racial injustice, racial struggles that were being addressed or eradicated, because they were the opposition. They said, okay, we still want to hold you. You may be making some noise, voting rights, Civil Rights Act. We still want to put you in your place. So when those things popped up, it coincided with those times in our history. Those things did not go up the moment the Civil War was over with and the Confederacy lost. Okay, they didn't just start popping up monuments all over the place in the South, because they lost. So you know what I mean. So it's not, who just?
I mean, that's a hell of a point.
But you know what though?
That's a hell of a point.
Looking at the big picture, the Confederate flag doesn't hold as much weight as the American flag, right? So the American flag was adopted or made official in 1777. Slavery was abolished in 1804. So it was under the American flag we were enslaved.
1804? No, it was later than that, bro.
Okay, so then it was.
Yeah, it was like in the 1860s.
Okay, so 1860s then. So that's 90 years under the American flag, if not longer, where our people, African Americans or Africans, were being tortured and tormented under the American flag, right? So I think looking at the bigger picture is that, again, that flag, when they do the what's the thing they do during the football, baseball, basketball games and all that kind of stuff, national anthem, to kneel is exactly what we need to do, because it was during that time where our people were dying and being beaten and tortured and raped that American flag was flying high. So no, it did not represent us. Now the Confederate flag is just a symbolic to the culture that came about after slavery or during slavery. So it really didn't have as much impact. And I do understand what the brother is saying in a sense, but the American flag should have been changed. It should have been ripped apart, burned up, and changed to represent that, hey, we no longer, because it can't represent when we were in slavery and currently represent that we are free. It can't do it, right? So burn the motherfucker up, create a new flag that represents everybody in the new age and the new era, and then go from there. And then you can take your fucking Confederate flag and use it as toilet paper.
Hey, can I respond to that?
Sure, your microphone's
Can I say this right quick?
I want to respond.
Can I say this right quick? I'll make it real quick, and it's all you. So, I mean, I do believe, and I can't remember, it's been so many people say it, but does Germany still have statues and everything like that of everything that happened during the Nazi wars and things like that?
No, they don't.
So, yeah, exactly.
Losers don't get statues,
They
man.
don't. No. All right, Dale.
So I just want to say, I know people who listen to this podcast faithfully know that I hardly ever agree with Professor and the shit that he says.
Sounds like an agreeable.
But on this one, big dog, you open my eyes up to something.
Have a drink.
I'm gonna be honest with you. And not even until this moment, I've never really put that with the flag situation. I never really put that together.
So I'm gonna give you another one. A marriage license can't represent a marriage and a divorce at the same time. It can't. Right? So the flag can't represent slavery and freedom at the same time. It can't. So what does the American flag truly represent?
Because if you ask people, that's the symbol.
It means freedom.
That's
it means. That's what I want to ask.
Home of the free. That's what the national anthem says.
That's what I want to ask Miss Trump, cunt, Candace Owens.
Who?
I wish they would. I really would like them to come on our show. If you guys hear this podcast, please come to our show. I have a lot of questions about what you were talking about.
Who?
Huh? Who? The Coon Goon and the Trump cunt.
That's what I thought you said.
But it's like JB said, losers shouldn't have statues.
Yeah, losers don't have statues.
No, you lost. You lost for a fucking reason.
Yeah.
The American flag should have been changed.
As far as the
Charles Barkley got a statue.
Huh?
Did Charles Barkley got a statue?
He cool,
No, Charles Barkley.
But he ain't never won a champion. He never
cool motherfucker.
a title. My fault. Go ahead.
Yeah, I that's an interesting point you're making, Professor, regarding the flag. I do think that flags are symbols. I highly doubt that's never going to happen. I mean, that America's never going to change its flag. But what the flag that was flying,
The Redskins changed their name.
They did, but it's not. That's
to the football team.
So let me ask you this:
the flag. That's not going. That's not.
So let me ask you this then, and that's a good point. Can a country not change its symbol, but change its substance? Can it do that?
I think that America, to its core, is a person dealing with a lot of mental illness. I'll just say that. If America was a person, there's a lot of conflict into its soul that it hurts itself, but it puts on a front that it's not going through a detrimental depression.
To answer your question, I think this: if you changed the substance before present time, I'll say now, I think they possibly could have made it work. But with everything going on now, it's so many people going to still look at that. Like now, everyone's going to look at the flag as, as what's going on right now and how the world is how the world's divided. Still everybody's not free as they say they are. But if you had did it while things were, I would say, calmer, or there was less tension beforehand, I think it might have worked back then to have to change the substance.
It would have had to been right after the Civil War, to the professor's point.
Even then, it wouldn't.
No.
As far as burning it up, yeah.
No. As far as eradicating and just creating a whole new flag, it had to happen right after the Civil War. It's not happening now.
Yeah,
so
ever.
Yeah, that's not happening. But I do think that while we do have a lot of issues in America, we have all kinds of issues. Yeah. People are still trying to get here. People still look at it as as opportunity. And, people breaking their backs just to get into the country to have an opportunity to improve themselves.
Dying just to get over here.
Right. So because they see it from other places around the world, they see what's available to them. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that other places in the world aren't great to be in or live in. However, people are striving to get into this country and have, quote unquote, the American dream.
Yep.
So
it's the thing that the visions and thoughts that we put out to the other countries. They're not here. They're just now seeing some of the stuff that really goes on here with, the George Floyd incident. They're just now seeing some of the daily things that, are happening. And that's still not persuading them to not to come. But all that stuff is just now getting out to the masses. That's why you had your Londons, your Brazils, and everybody else that was in unison protesting just the same. Because there was none of that back in the day. We were the only ones around, doing Rodney King. London wasn't doing shit. It was just probably
right. Well, and also the other part of it too. I think sometimes we're very self-absorbed. We're not concerned about what's going on around the world for real. We're worried about what's going on in the United States. But other countries are looking at what's going on in the United States, because they're looking at us. It's kind of like that Big Brother thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. There are plenty of countries out there that are fine on their own, and they just say, we are who we are. We couldn't care less what goes on with the United States. But, we are very, very front and center around on the world stage, and people do look at us.
Because to tell you the truth, I've been looking at other countries, and China. China treats black people bad.
Oh yeah,
I was like, damn. I really truly didn't know that. Like being an outsider coming in to go visit China, they don't treat you bad unless you go over there and break one of their dumbass laws, and they trying to do all kind of crazy shit to you.
Yeah.
But as far as the black people that are native to I'll say
that
native, live there.
Yeah.
China, treat them horrible.
India too.
Yeah, in parts of London still. England is the same way too. So it's just, you took us from our land to bring us somewhere else, and then you still continue to treat us like shit for so many years after. But you still need us for so many things.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Yeah, they got the cheat code. Treat us like shit.
Up, down, left, right, A, B, select,
start.
start.
Yeah, it's kind of. The name of the game was, and you get 51 men or 51 lives.
That's how Nintendo shit.
Up, down, left, right, B, A. Yeah, darn right.
Yeah,
How can you forget that? But they know the cheat code, and in order to continue the way of life, and to fuel their society and to fuel their economy, they have to do us like that. Willie Lynch exposed all of that, and everybody just took hold.
Yeah, it just changed the code: slave up, slave down, slave up, slave down.
Y'all off the hook.
That's how your country dance.
Slave up, slave down, slave left, slave right. Slave.
Oh,
there it is.
Slaving all night.
That's right. All that slave shit.
Slave right.
How did we
Always talking that slave.
Always talking that slave shit.
How did we get here? Every time, man, you look back and be like, how the hell?
Hey, you know why? It's about that time.
Hey, it always has to happen at some point. It does.
It's on the tip of my tongue. But I want to read this. The African American culture is both distinct and enormously influential, not only in America, but worldwide as a culture. So we're very influential. Our style, I was talking to someone, a friend of mine. He was in the Guard with me, and he loved Sean John suits when they first came out. So, make a long story short, the company he worked for flew him over to Beijing, and they were over there wearing Sean John. So they really love our culture. They love how we do things. They love our suave, our swag, and they hate us as people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what kind of conflict is that? How can you love everything about us without loving us? Doesn't make sense, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can go so long with it, but
I know.
We keep talking about tanning and everything else,
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's...
I've meant to tell you guys this. So, I learned something new when I was in Houston. They're coming out with this new cosmetic where you can actually...
add melanin to your skin.
And you can be light-skinned. I can be dark-skinned. A Caucasian person can be darn near African-American.
So I can
That's crazy.
I can be light-skinned?
You can be light-skinned.
But
we would know that you're undercover.
They would
cannot, D.
Well, hold on,
listen,
Dale,
I know y'all can't see him,
so
but
how
he
light
like
can
a
he go?
burnt match.
How light can he go, though?
How light can he go?
How light can I go?
Like Idris Elba. That's about as light as he can get.
You know how light you can go? Ash. Hey.
Run that shit.
Run that shit.
Run that shit.
But yeah, they got the melanin shit now.
So is it like temporarily or
so
like for the weekend? Can I be like,
Is it like a tattoo or something?
It's like a tattoo. It's exactly like a tattoo.
So it goes into your skin like a tattoo.
Yep. And
But is it like for the weekend or is it permanent?
It lasts for a while.
It's
Like,
not-
I got to continue to get treatments.
But can I do it for the weekend?
Yeah, but
Oh, heck yeah.
the side effect is your toes fall off.
But for the weekend, I'm light skinned.
Next week you'll have 8 toes.
Y'all remember that?
Guess what?
Saturday Night
They'll
Live with
fall
Eddie
off
Murphy.
too. Come back.
When he dressed up like a white man and they just like was giving him all free shit.
The irony of that. The irony of that.
Professor, you're right though.
The irony.
They always want to be just like us.
Yeah. But how can you want to be like us and not love us or like us?
Jealousy, man.
How
come they got that?
No, they not even that.
I think it's the resiliency is what it is.
And not even that. They know how great we are. Yeah. We don't know how great we are. Everybody knows the black man is the top of the world. You know what I mean? As far as the people on Earth, we the first people on to walk this planet. They know how great we are. We just don't know that. So yeah, they like everything we do, but then they keep us down because they know if we ever realize how powerful we are as a people, we'll take this shit over.
You know, it's something I had a conversation with a neighbor of mine. We were talking about Black history, and we were talking about, I think, Professor, and you played a clip, Ill Will, a while ago about rewriting the books. Like, same thing, Dale. If they really, 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 really knew everything we learned and they teach in schools, it's just irrelevant.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, anyway.
So, here's something to leave you black in thought. Influence is key, I think, when it comes to a lot of people. And the words that you say and the images that you put out create a lot of influence to the rest of the world. People like Candace Owens, the Hodge Twins, and other people, Mr. Daniel Sims in Alabama and stuff like that, have to realize, you know, the message that you put out is very powerful. And with that, by putting out the wrong message, you send out a wrong message about the culture.
DJ Payne 1.
You know I'm flawed, but you love me anyway. A lot of times I'm so wrong, but you love me anyway. Love me anyway. That's why you're my blood.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and we want you to come back for more. If you like what you heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We're on all the major networks: Apple, Google, TuneIn, Spotify, and many more. Check out our social media, and please like, follow, and comment on Facebook, Black in Thought, Instagram, Black in Thought Podcast, and Twitter, Black in Thought Podcast. Please subscribe, share, and once again, thank you for listening.
You know